Hey everyone, welcome to your daily update for SOL and BTC. Um, it's been a pretty quiet sideways weekend, and as such, a lot of liquidity is just starting to balance out. So on the 1 day, uh, we've got levels sort of around that 105, 106k mark on BTC, and up to sort of around 110, nearly 111. But the levels that have structural confluence with the charts are about 110.6, 110.7. Now on SOL, same sort of thing would mean a range of dipping to say around 195 or going up to about 210. Although I don't think that's quite what is in store. I think we're probably looking at something a little bit bigger. So if we have a look at the 7 day, 7 day is showing sort of 114 to 115 to the upside as far as BTC goes, and still only really showing around that 106 level to the downside. As far as SOL, we've got numbers like 210, 213, and even actually starting to build liquidity quite nicely up around those 220s. So those all have confluence with the levels that exist to the upside. And as far as the downside goes, we could start looking at levels below 195. So we could start looking at things like the 190s and the 182 sort of area, which of course all have confluence. So today we do have weekly closes. We have monthly closes. So, and we also have a banking holiday. Excuse me. We also have a banking holiday in the US. So, if we're going to get any kind of volatility, or if whales are going to try and push the price around, the thin books that come about, thin order books that come about when you're dealing with this sort of timing is very, very advantageous for them to do it soon. So if we have a look at the 30-day liquidity, anything up to sort of around 117 would take out around half of it, or if they went up to sort of that 119, 120. And you can see when you're looking at the 30-day positions, people are more so short on BTC. They've been short, they've been holding those shorts for a long time. They're expecting more downside. The only catch with this is that if they are going to move up, a lot of that leverage is not trapped. It'll be in profits, and there's plenty of opportunity for them to close those positions before the price really gets up into that premium area. So if they are going to push up, they've got to do it at a time when the order books are so thin that they can just pump it and have like really, really wide spread. And funnily enough, that would be something like a banking holiday where markets are all closed. So yeah, we shall see what comes about. To the downside, it's still really not showing a lot of longs open more than 30 days to the downside. So that's kind of the polar opposite really from when you look at SOL. A lot of people have been long since the 170s on SOL. They're still holding. If they were to push to the upside along with BTC, then that would probably mean taking the 120 area on SOL. But then if they were to uh, really just travel in the direction of the balance of liquidity, then you'd think they'd be trying to get those 170s. But same thing applies. It's very, very hard to go and get that if all those people are in profit. They're not trapped. They can close the positions and then just wait for the trend to turn and then take another entry. So overall, I think in the short term, the areas that stand out the most are sort of around that 195 to 210 area on SOL, and that 106 to 110 in the short term on BTC. So now let's have a look at what they've been doing over the weekend. As you can see, the lines on the short-term liquidity are getting so dense that there's areas just with zero gaps. So that area there around that 110 110.5 to sort of 110.6, that area is a target. It's been in play now for long enough that it really should be hitting that, but it just isn't yet. It's as if they sort of maybe want a few more high leverage shorts to come in around the 109s just to really complete the picture up to the top side there. when liquidity starts to get this dense, it's really easy to have a short squeeze because just the cascading effect of all these positions getting liquidated just sends the price higher and higher and higher. So, and the top side of that short-term liquidity is about 117. So our main areas of structural rejection are 110s, 114s, and 117, and then up higher there's some stuff around 119. So yeah, the liquidity is all there. The spaces in the liquidity are lining up with where the actual structural levels are, and it's just really as if they're just waiting for the right most efficient time to send this thing. But the same can be said to the downside. Um, I think really the reason that they're not or haven't dumped it so far is partially because there would be a better time, e.g., let's do it when the books are thinner. But the other side of it is that you don't really want to go down just before the end of a month if you structurally want to maintain all the high time frame stuff on the chart. So if we can close the month at this level around 109 on BTC, then we are closing over the top of the 1 week origin support levels, and it's a good level to close at structurally. And then if we were to dive from that, we could go down for 7 days a week, and this is almost a complete replica of what happened so far with the Trump dump and pump that happened. It's almost like it's playing out exactly the same. If we were to see some kind of big move in one direction, 6 days of capitulation, and then a move back in the other direction, then we've basically just repeated the past. And so that's where the liquidity is at. Let's have a look at these charts. So SOL BTC on the daily, it's in a really key position. So it's below the daily trend, and it's going to create some kind of range trend today if it closes as a yellow candle. So of course the most important thing about creating this little interior range trend is where does the next candle open. So if it was to close exactly at the level it is now, like 18817, it could open just on the wrong side of the normal trend, but potentially just on the top side of the range trend, which allows it to push back up and continue to break the trend. If it was to pull back even just a little bit, then it would probably be a double negative where it would be under both, and then we're going to see a retest down to that 17933 area. And on the weekly, if we have a look at that, the weekly close is below the break level at 19012, so you could see that as a negative. If it closes above that in the next hour and a half, then very bullish. But at the same time, it's closing above the range trend. So if it was to pull back to the 18264 level or lower, it can bounce off the top of that range trend now that it's been hard closed. And then it can target that 20469 area. We're also going to move the normal trend from down here from several weeks ago up to this new wick. So it would be pretty normal to see a rejection off that in that sort of 1938 area, or it'll become a target. So when this closes, it could go up to the break, down to the range trend, and then back up to the trend again, which effectively gives you that that Darth Maul kind of it's strong, it's weak, it's strong again type liquidity sweep in both directions, really. So it's really geared up to have some volatility. And if we look at the 1 month, and the 1 month is closing above a break level, not a hard close, but it's above a break level, it's above a range trend. If it was to dip down to that 179 sort of 180 range trend area, a bounce off that could take it straight to the hold level, which is up around there at 20232. So again, it's just setting up, it's like sitting in the middle. Everybody has placed their bets top and bottom. There's plenty of liquidity to take, and effectively what will end up happening is the whales are going to push this in one direction. they're going to be able to open large positions into the liquidations that occur, and then they're going to be able to push it back the other way, and they're going to be able to buy back or sell, whichever way they go first, those positions. So it's a really good spot for incoming violence, basically. So let's have a look at, I have that there. So look at the totals. I'll just skip to the total weekly because it's just a bit more relevant at the moment than the daily. But the total weekly is underneath a range trend. It hasn't tested the hold level, and it's still above and doing a retest of the break level. So overall, what you'd expect to see from this is either a second move down to bounce off the 343 level, and then a complete push probably all the way through to that 369 level, or it'll just come back up and recover the range trend, which does happen. They dive down below, they grab that liquidity down there, and then they push back up. So, but the key level to watch really is up here at about 3.7T. So this is on the total market cap minus the stables, the two main stables on the weekly. Key level is to watch is that 3.7T. It's a target of the bounce of the trend, which is incomplete. So that could be our push to the upside to grab all that higher liquidity. The other level to watch on this would be the older range trend that's coming through at about 3.43. So the touch of one should therefore target the other. So that's the overall market cap. Let's have a look at BTC. So it looks like if we close the 1 day today at this price, which is anything over about 108.7, anything over that, then we're going to break the interior. If we break that interior trend, we should start to look at this 110 level, which is pretty confluent with that first liquidity band. And then we have got a hold level sitting here at 111.211. So a break here should target up into there, which is almost a perfect retest of trend. It's a touch of the exterior trend. It's a touch of the hold level. It's just all in that one area. So yeah, this break should kick off a bit of a retest of some of those upper areas. So that's looking pretty good for the daily. Maybe we do get that little pump to the upside first, which is actually a little bearish. I'd much rather they took the lows and came back for the highs, but we don't get to choose. So if we look at the 2-day, okay, so 2-day close is going to introduce a hold level at 210, I think that is. Yeah, sorry, I keep saying 210. Guess where I want price to go. 110072. It's going to introduce a price, a hold level there. So it's a little lower than where I would have expected it to go, but it may just push through to that range trend that's it's closing under the range trend again, and that range trend's up there at about 110.4, 110.5. There's not much else to retest on here other than that 111. Yeah, 111.865 would be a retest of the broken range, but it's still not a hard closed range. So it may just attempt to get back into that range, which does happen. But that would also mean it's pushing up on that 3-day trend, and it's probably about time that it actually got above the 3-day trend at least once, because we've had several 1-day breaks, which these things kind of grow. So like if you've had several 1-day breaks, you should eventually have a 2-day break and 3-day break and so on. So could still push up into there, like you see a lot of these other candles that push up, like this one here. We had when we did have that hold level there at 112.821, the price still got up to 113.431. So they don't always just bounce off them to the cent on the high time frame. So, but yeah, that looks like we're going to have a hold level. We're going to have some more downside most likely, but it might push back up to test these levels and reject off something slightly higher. So looking at the 9-day close today, 9-day is extended down below a trend. It's bouncing off the previous trend break, and it looks like it's going to close above that. So if it closes up here, yeah, retesting anything above that 109.988 level would make sense. It actually would make more sense for it to go up and actually retest the backside of the trend it's taken a dive from. So that's then up around that 113 level. And this one's probably one of the more important ones that's closing today. This is the 27-day. So it's just sitting on the fence to create a hold level. As it stands, it's bounced off the trend, and it's not a hard close of the trend, but trends still act as support even though they aren't hard closed. So this we really just do not want to see the day close under 108.865, because a close under that is going to be really true bearish, because it's sort of creating that resistance on a really high time frame. At the moment, it can be fake bearish. It can hover around here, act like it's going to break heavily to the downside, but end up closing up, like what we saw on SOL yesterday. It sort of did a whole fake bearish thing and didn't end up dumping really that far, because it wasn't really a proper hold level. So yeah, for the day, we just want to close over 108.865. Make sure we don't create that hold level. Now, if we do, just see if we've got any fib confluence with that. Yeah, so yeah, if we do create that, then our fib target becomes just under 100k. So that does have a bit of confluence with some of the bigger high time frame levels that are in play. So I guess we'll see how that goes. This is our 81-day close today, and yeah, it's rejected off all of those topside resistance trends. Might just have a look at this on the daily, just see if there's see what it actually looks like on the daily. Yeah, so it's really just hugging that support trend. So it would be ideal if it just closed up a little bit today inside there. But yeah, at the moment it's just kind of hovering under it. So if this takes on its full rejection, the target is 93.570. It really just comes down to whether or not this trend can actually support it. And if that trend supports it, it won't reach the hold level down there at 93.570. If it loses that trend, it goes down to that lower level. The other thing which could happen today is it could actually close as a blue candle, in which case it brings in a secondary trend like that, and that's really bullish if it actually does that, because when you get two trends like that in close proximity, quite often it creates a bigger forceful bounce to the upside. Like if you actually look at some of the price action before really big breaks and moves in BTC, you'll notice that it actually creates an interior trend and an exterior trend that are really close together, or two interiors that are really close together, and then it bounces off both of them, which gives it a much bigger bounce to the upside. Don't ask me how that works, but it just seems to be that trends equal the fuel for moves, and if you have a whole heap of them sitting in a real tight, compact area, then you have rocket fuel. So, okay, let's have a look at the weekly. So, weekly's in a really interesting spot. So that trend is currently back here. No, it's not. It's there. Okay. So first thing that's going to happen on the weekly today, in fact, that's a really good example. There's two trends in close proximity. This candle lost that interior, but you had that interior and that exterior really close, and now we get this big dump. That's a really good example of what we were just saying. But this exterior trend is, or exterior, depends on which one you base it off, but all interiors are just an interior to an exterior, and that exterior is just an interior to a different exterior, if you get what I mean. So this is going to move down to here. And at this stage, we are going to open in an okay position to bounce off that, which means we can come back up and target that sort of 114 area up there. So that's confluent with some of the clusters of liquidity that we currently have in play. But we have this downtrend on the weekly, which we're going to run into if we hit it at about 117, 116, 117. So that's also confluent with those clusters that we have. So yeah, it could push up to there, and then it's going to hit that downtrend, and then it's going to have to reject back to some kind of horizontal level. And so then it all comes down to time. If it does it too quickly, then it's pushing up through resistance, hitting the downtrend, and it will come back down really fast. If it does it really slowly, then it can close back above some of these levels and then use them as support to work against that trend. So the other thing is with this is that it might actually end up closing just below this really old range trend that's coming through here. And we've lost that range trend once before, or we've opened, as you can see, like this candle here, which opened underneath that trend once before. It rejected off it and created that, Trump dump pump thing. So we're in that spot right now. So it's above the new support trend, but below the old range trend. So this could definitely create a dump down to that 95, 96 area and then back up again. But if it does it, because of the support of this main trend, really it ends up having to go back up. It just, it's funny, someone messaged me actually the other day and said that the market will probably dump till the 6th and then go back up again, which makes perfect sense in this instance, because if it bounces off that, goes down there, capitulates for 6 days and then goes back up, that's exactly what happened in that candle back there. So history never repeats. Sometimes it does. Okay, let's have a look at this 2-week. Okay, so 2-week is above trend. It's got a 2-week hold level that's going to form there at 114 today. It's above the 2-week range trend. Okay, so that could give us that upside liquidity sweep at least to 214 before we get the downside. And it has that hold level down there at 105. So this covers off the 105 downside sweep, a move to 114 or higher, and then potentially the rejection from there. So this is one of the first ones that actually starts to show potential, say, trend retest, because this trend that's running up through here will relocate today, and it'll be over here. And so now we have two 2-week trends really tight together. If we work through both of them, hit the 105, then we can get a big, fast, powerful move to the upside. So this 2-week chart is actually showing the fact it could take every single bit of liquidity that's on those charts right now, as far as a dump to 105, maybe a wick slightly lower, then a real big push up, and all the way up to this topside trend here, which created the last rejection. So the pivot point for this trend was the July 7th candle, and then that's the first touch rejection of it that we've been going through now for about 4 weeks. So that's the exciting thing about this chart actually, is if it gets over the top of that trend. This is the other one up here. That's why I keep saying 200s, I think. I'd love to see that trend get hit. That's actually that one, the original one from 2019 through to 2021. So There was something CZ posted where he basically said that after 114, Bitcoin will reject, and wherever it rejects to, there'll be a 3x move from wherever it rejects to. And considering that most of this stuff just seems to be pretty programmatically predictable, it really wouldn't surprise me if we take whatever the target is up here and divide it by 3, and that's what we're going to hit, and then we're going to go up there. Who knows? But from a large time frame perspective, it looks like this 2-week structure is capable of taking out the entire 95, and taking out the entire liquidity chart that sort of exists at the moment. Okay, and then our 17-week close. It's only really a couple of trends to look at on the 17-week, but if we drill it down to the weekly, this gives us a close under the current resistance trend, and it gives us a hold level down there at 98, 98,339, and it gives us trend support down at about 85, so that's lower than where I would expect it to go, but that is where the trend support is. And then from that point, what does that then give us? And then it gives us sort of about 150 to the top side if it gets back up and over that trend. So yeah, that's a pretty good range, but that's also a really, really high time frame range. Okay, the monthly. So monthly is bouncing off support, but it's going to open on the wrong side of support. It's on the top of an interior downtrend still, so that's positive. Realistically, the monthly should have retested 102.721. It just hasn't. So I'd say it's the next candle that it opens, because it's going to be on the wrong side of the trend, it'll be a little bit more free to do that. And so I'd just be keeping an eye on that 102.721 level. And if it was to move back up on the next candle, then the first trend resistance that's coming through there is about that 114 level, and the next one's about that 121 level. So it's all pretty confluent. The 2-month close today, so we are moving a trend from the downside, which was here. So as long as this closes yellow today, which means a close above 107, so basically 107 on the 2-month. As long as we close above that, we shift this trend to the top side, which is going to give us a rejection around 126. And the bottom side trend that it's leaving, and if it wants to do a retest, is going to be down there at about 100. Just see what that looks like on the daily. Yeah, so backside of the support trend is currently sitting at about 116. Retest of the trend that it's breaking is about 99.7, and the topside target that it should aim to go and try and target after that is 126. So that's all very confluent with the way liquidity is right now. So it could go up, dump, and then bounce. So that's our 2-month BTC. And we do have a 4-month, but let's just hope we don't see that 4-month trend. That'd be 82. So that's a wee way down. If it was to reject to the 4-month trend at 82, that rejection could come from 113 or 119. to the upside, and then it could, yeah. So let's face it, it's there, it's on the table, but it's also a really high time frame, and hopefully that move is just going to be one of the steps if we get a bear market. Right, so let's have a look at SOL. So SOL is rejecting off the daily trend again. There's not going to be any movements of any trends. It still hasn't really, there's really nothing there on the daily to tell us anything other than it would be bullish if we closed over 204.967, because that would create a hold level to the upside to try and break the trend, and we kind of need that. There is a little bit of bearishness in this, so it'll create a daily range trend, and as it currently stands, it's going to open in a bad position for that range trend. You really would like it to be opening up so that the next candle can open on top of the range trend and bounce. And it's actually pulled back underneath the daily range trend that was coming through here. So you really want to see this at a minimum close above 203.968 or around that 204 area. Ideally, yeah, you want to see it close above that that hold and create that hold in there at 204.852. Yeah, so a close lower than that is probably going to be bearish, ultimately. And let's have a look at the, so that's bearish for a 1 day time frame. Now the 3 day is still trying to push its way up to its target. So this has been one of the ones I've been watching. It's just kind of been hovering and halfway in between where it should be going and where it is. It's done everything right. It's broken out of a 3 day range trend. It's bounced off the top of it. It should be heading up to 210. It just hasn't yet. So whether that's just timing and they're just waiting for thinner order books, don't know. But outside of that, once you start looking at the 3 day on SOL, it's still got plenty of support. So if we were to get a 3 day hard close, say on the next candle, if we were to spend 3 more days to the upside, which it's pretty possible because we've got a 3 day trend coming through, and the next candle is probably going to hit that trend and then it's going to go up. And if that happens and we get that 3 day close, then we could get a retest of that 192.983 level, which, yeah, I feel a little bipolar sometimes looking at these charts because yeah, everything on BTC just wants to die and everything on SOL just wants to go up. So there we have this. So in an hour and 11 minutes, if we close above 201.567, we get a whole candle situated above trend, and that will introduce a target of 217, and the next trend retest is up around 22 something, so 224. So it just really seems backwards. You know, BTC just wants to go down, SOL just wants to go up. Okay, so yeah, on that time frame, we're really just watching to see if we get a close over 201.567 on the 9 day, which yeah, a lot can change. I suppose it's only a couple of bucks in an hour, but structurally it's significant. So let's have a look at the 27 day. So 27 days is going to close above a break level of 187.620, and it's got a range trend sitting up at about 220, and it's got another range trend sitting down here at sort of around 182. So that would pretty much wipe out that whole liquidity chart as well. So we could go up first or down first, but one of them is going to lead to the other. So that's a pretty good pretty good structural move if they want to wipe out everything. And over onto the 81. So the 81 is closing just below where we really want it to. So we want this to close over 204.794, which would then be, it would be opening the candle above the old break level. But as far as this time frame goes, it still hasn't lost its trend. It's gradually trying to work its way back up to touch the backside of the support trend, which would be currently in the 250s. So it's just heading there over time. First step, positive step, would be at least to close the day over 204.794. Okay. And the weekly, so we're still under the weekly trend. We rejected off that that trend. So this is a range trend. I don't know if people have seen the charts I've thrown out there, but there's a hopium chart where there's a target of around 500 on SOL, and it actually comes down to recapturing this trend from September of 2023, and that's what we rejected off up there at 217. So we've got that main break level coming through here at 204.6, 204.8 sort of area. We've got a couple of really old levels coming through there. So really we just want to see if it can close above those. If it can close above those, I just can't see how this thing can not just move up. But if we close below those, it's just going to take more time. So we are going to get a new interior support trend, which comes through from the June 30th week, and it's going to come through here to the August 25 week. So that's going to introduce a new support level. Where is that going to be? That's that one, 25th. So that's going to introduce a new support level to bounce off around those 190s. So yeah, SOL is looking very bullish. Yeah, especially as it just keeps on building new trends to the upside. So that's looking pretty good on the weekly. And the 2 week, it's going to hard close the 2 week range trend. It's going to hard close one of the 2 week origin levels. So that's a 188 level. It's also going to hard close a 179 level. So if BTC really takes a dump, big dump, these would be those levels that just, if the price comes down to it, there's so much support down there that it's just worth grabbing. It's almost though that we may not see it because the strength of SOL, unless we get a reversal in SOL's strength, it's really hard for it to dive to these levels. Especially like with that weekly trend now coming in the 190s. Like, how does it get to the 180s? It would take an absolute tip over of its current momentum. So we're also going to move the topside trend though. So we're going to get this 2 week relocated from the July 7th week up to here. So that would give us a rejection around that 212 to anywhere in that, depending on how long it takes to get there. Maybe Confluent with that sort of 210 to 11 sort of area, and then that could lead to a retest of that break. So the moves are there to do it, but it's the same as the weekly move was there to go back to 179 as well. But instead, the buying pressure on the weekly is so much that now we've just got another weekly support trend being formed. So just because the move is there to do it doesn't mean that something can't be created throughout time to actually become a roadblock in the move actually playing out. And that's more or less what ends up happening. Like, the structure might want to go down, but if people just keep buying, then the price will actually go up. So so that's where that's looking. Ideally, once again, we just want to see closes in the next hour over 204.8 pretty much. If we get up over that, we're up over some really important levels. Else just be ready for a rejection on the backside of this trend. It might hit that and come back to retest these hard close levels, especially if, yeah, like I say, strength takes a dump and if BTC takes a dump at the same time. 17 week, not really telling us much. I mean, it'd be super bullish if it closed over 213.273, but I don't think that's going to happen today. The break level for the 17 week is coming through there at 204.636. So yeah, you can see how important that level actually is, and all it's going to take is for one of these days for us to get some kind of close over there and bounce off the top of it, and then there isn't going to be much to stop it. If we came down and did a trend retest, that'd be down here at about 182, 181. So that's pretty confluent with wiping out the whole board of liquidity. And so the 48-day move is still just kind of hovering. So it's moves like this which can come back to 175, but it just has to spend enough time up here to not come back. And some of those bigger moves that are closing at the moment are pretty much going to get in the way of stuff like this. So, and our 1 month, we're going to close over the top of a range trend. So if we retest the back side of that, or if we retest this trend that's running all the way through here from the previous high, so this is actually a range trend as well. So if we retest the back side of these, either of these, which is sort of around that 180 something, let's check that out on the daily. $179 to 176 down in there. If we retest the backside of either of those, then it's a long. It's just becoming such a strong area. Okay, the 2 month chart. So it's 2 months is just looking like it's going to open underneath as it currently stands. So it would need to push up to about 205. We'll just see how that looks on daily. Oh, it's so close. Yeah, not even 205 really. It looks like same sort of level, around 204.6, 204.7, 204.8, that sort of area. So yeah, it's a very, very important level that it's currently sitting at, because it could actually be the first 2 month candle ever to open above that level if it just pushes up $1. Or it could open on the underside of it and reject off it. And let's hope it does not reject off that one, because that would give us a 147 target, which would then probably just get stopped by this one anyway. So our 4 month is going to build another hold level at 189.270. So stuff like this is going to make it really hard for those lower targets to get achieved. This is closing over the 4 month break level, which is 179.353. And even if it was to retest the trend, so one of these is a range trend and the other one of these is the normal trend, and those levels are going to be, let's check that out on the daily. Where are those levels? They are currently sitting at about 175, 160 at those levels on a really high time frame. So yeah, it's pretty fair to say that getting below 189 is already going to be a little bit hard, but getting below things like 175 is going to be really hard. So that's how that looks. Not too sure what this one was. Yep, that's just more Confluence. Okay, how's SUI going? SUI's just stuffing around. So this is just bouncing off the monthly. So if we get a dump, we'll just look to add down here, just in that sort of $3 area, and then down here at the range trend at about 260s. Also, just on this one, just to reiterate, going to actually take some profit if it hits 3.4. because there's a little bit of a backside rejection area there that's available on a higher time frame, which you can't quite see on this chart. And it looks like we might close under that weekly range trend. So we could reject off the backside of that to head to those lower levels. So might just close some of this position just on the retest of that trend. And that's us for today. So yeah, it looks pretty hard to actually tell which way this is going to go first. What's definitely going to happen is we're going to go one way, and I'd say on the shorter term, BTC might take some of that topside liquidity before it goes down. On the longer term, everything is still bullish, I think, until we sort of see 126. But it's just a case of how low are they going to dump it before they go back up again. And I'm pretty convinced they will go back up again, just because they are closing above the important levels. Anything that comes next really is just kind of like a dive to grab that lower liquidity, and then they'll retrace back up above those important levels and hopefully give us our final push to the upside. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this. Like and subscribe, and hopefully we get more than just some 1 hour scalps today, because yesterday was a little bit boring sitting on the couch scalping the 1 hour and watching Netflix. But you know what, you kind of, trades have to come to you. You can't just magically manifest them. So some days are like that. And yeah, we'll catch you all again later. Cheers, bye.